Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a fireside tactics. We're going to talk Crew 2.0. I'm going to attempt to be clear, concise. We had a saying in my old profession: clear, concise, and correct communication. The correct, you're going to have to decide whether I'm correct on this or not. As always, this is an opinion, but you can see I've got the fireplace going up there. It's nice and toasty, and the fact that I put it over the Crew, that's only coincidence. That is only coincidence. Crew 2.0. Looks like Wargaming is really pushing hard to change their Crew system. Well, I think that's a good idea as a general idea because it has languished for, I don't know, what, 8 years, 5 years? Been a very long time since there's been any additions to it. We're going to go through a couple of subjects here. Are changes needed? What is the problem exactly? What are some of the problems with the proposed fix that we just saw in Sandbox 2.0? And then what would I do? What do I think the actual fix is? Changes needed. Yes. We need to add to the Crew system. It needs to be improved. There are certain pain points that should be covered. 100,000%. However, the basic premise of separate crews is the horse that got you here, right? Separate individual guys in the Crew. People like it. I don't think there's any hue and cry from the community that says we hate having separate crews. There are pain points involved with the current system, which we'll cover. Nobody is complaining about them and saying, my gosh, we have to have one captain, or in this case, one commander. Oops, did I say that? Yes. It is something ported over from World of Warships. Single commander isn't necessarily better, it's just different. And this is a very standard large organization response to things that have been left to languish. When the Eye of Sauron finally switches its gaze onto the Crew system, all of a sudden it has to be different. But that doesn't mean that it's better. What we have works. Skill system and crews are great. People have enjoyed these, the way this has been set up for a very long time in this game. In fact, it's so good that it's lasted this long. That's a testament to how good that system is with separate crews. Am I saying it doesn't need to be changed? Negative. There's a lot of really great things. In fact, there are some good ideas in the sandbox that can be brought over and folded into basically what we have improved. We'll get to that in a minute. So what are the problems? The stated objectives from Wargaming are 4, basically, with a bunch of stuff in the middle of them. Improving the user experience of interacting with the Crew system in the garage. This is the exact verbiage from the website, from the first article that we saw on this. That is corporate gobbledygook. I love you guys, Wargaming. In fact, I'm wearing my Cabbage Mechanic shirt today that got sent. A little bit late, but anyway, here it is. Late for the event, by the way. Fantastic event. Let's not get off track, though, because we're talking about Crew 2.0. Corporate gobbledygook. Basically, they need to make the UI better. Okay, fantastic. They also, in this section, lump in crew management with different numbers and advancements. We'll get to that. That is one of the major pain points. What we're talking about here is having a crew of 5 or 6 down to a crew of 4. Things like having the radio operator move from the loader to the commander to wherever in multiple different versions as you're going through the tech tree. Recently, they streamlined the tech tree for exactly that reason, to make it a little bit easier to understand to go through. I applaud that. And so that is a valid pain point, and it is one that, in fact, customers complain about. That's important. Simplify crew management for people with lots of crews. I'm going to tell you something. As a general rule, they need to be simplified, streamlined. We'll talk about how I think we can do that. But as a major point for a power user like me, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. We'll talk about how some of those things can be massaged around the edge. Increase variety of skills. Yes, that is, in fact, probably the biggest thing they can do to improve the skill system. They have a stated objective to make the skills so that you can build different kinds of crews. And I think they had a nice template in Equipment 2.0 by not blowing up the equipment system, but adding equipment. I really, really had wished they had taken a page out of that book because that was pretty much a home run. It still needs adjustment, as anything does in a game, as you work on balance and try to figure things out. It would be cool for them to add more equipment iteratively as we go through. That would be great, but I think that was a great baseline for what should have been or what should be done with Crew 2.0. So increased variety of skills, that is a pain point. Yes, fantastic. However, does it have to be done this way? It begs the question. The answer is no, of course not. Creating an intuitive progression with clear and achievable goals. You know what? It already is. So this is kind of a throwaway statement to me. There are clear and achievable goals. What is not clear is exactly how, in some cases, how the skills work. When you take a look at some of the other CCs who really dig into it, 13 Disciple, the other mathematicians who can really dig down in there, a lot of times they're confused on exactly what and how and when the skill works. That's a transparency problem, not a skill problem. The skill works in some manner, and the fact that sometimes players can't figure out doesn't mean that we need to shit can that system and create a system that has intuitive progression with clear and achievable goals. There are clear and achievable goals. You go from skill to skill, it's exponential, it gets harder. That's good. That's good. When the rich get richer in a game, only bad things happen because the top end becomes completely unbalanced. So, achievable goal with clear benefits. Don't like that verbiage. That's the rich getting richer. This is a meta-changing idea, all right? And the results from the sandbox and the guys who dug into it were able to create these monster setups with specific outlier kinds of tanks. This is a whole nother subject, but it does apply here that I've talked about multiple times. When you have outliers, large outliers, either good or bad, in a closed system like World of Tanks, you can get some very strange results. And if it's a good outlier, as in a bonus or a positive number, then that's very good for that tank or player. And if you have a negative outlier, that's very bad. So it's a meta-changing idea here. Intuitive progression with clear and achievable goals. When you add that to the fact that people were able to create these monster setups with absolutely ridiculous capabilities of DPM, reloads, things like that. That's not good. That's imbalanced, and that is not a system I think we want, because if we go back to the idea, the basic idea of the skill system in this game has always been, it's a small bonus, and as you work towards it, you get that, but it is not absolutely game altering and changing. It's good, you want it. Sixth Sense is a great example. That's one that you absolutely want to have. They covered that. We'll get that in just a minute. But as a general rule, the skills just added a little bit, smoothed the edges. What a fantastic game design decision to only smooth the edges in a PvP game instead of give these ridiculous builds so you have these crazy outliers. That is one of the best things they ever did in design on this game. And they are in danger of dropping that into the trash. That is not good. Improve and simplify the interface and crew management. All right. On the surface, that's a great statement, but in the verbiage below it, it says completely rework the system. No, it doesn't need to be completely reworked. It doesn't. That's a false premise. Just because something needs worked doesn't mean it needs to be completely reworked. Ride the horse that got you here, fellas. Ride the horse that got you here. Improve on that system. All right, pain points. Let's talk about those, because we just went through their objectives, and some of the pain points I agree with in there. Some I do not. From the customer standpoint, as a power user, that's the opinion you're getting from me, Guido, the CC on NA. Pain points are moving crews, as I discussed a little bit earlier, going from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, all of that kind of stuff. Radio operator bouncing all around, dropping out radio operators. Yes, I'll tell you how we can deal with that. But yes, that's a pain point. Sub 100 crews, a small thing, but when you're new, that's painful. I love the idea of getting rid of those. Mixed match crews and changing their main specialization. That's what I just covered on moving crews. Skill system with irrelevant skills. That's the big one. I think that's one of the largest ones. Other than the UI and the confusion of how to move the crews around in some cases, I think the skill system languishing is the biggest pain point. and content is king, I know the players would like to see a skill system rework, and that is absolutely on the table as far as I'm concerned. And I think we'll get to it. You can easily do that in the current system. All right. Sixth Sense. I throw that in there as a pain point. It's not for me as far as a pain point. I like that it's a skill you have to get. It just happens to be a good skill that is desirable. Great. Perfect. However, it is a universal skill, and giving everybody Sixth Sense as part of a game mechanic now, okay, fine. You change it from a skill, you change it to a game mechanic. I don't have a huge issue with that. And if it covers a pain point from players, well, fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Things that have adversely affected or that are not good with the Sandbox 2.0 iteration. Let me just break here and say I get it. It's Sandbox 2.0. It may not come at us this way. My problem with it is the entire premise of the total rework and the way that they're doing it. When really all they have to do is rework the horse they rode to the victory circle on. All right. So things adversely affected. Instructors feel like an afterthought with little actual thought put into them. These were all special characters. It's a sop to the special crew. People have sought and have been promoted for years. They've bought them. They've got rewards for them. There's entire missions and campaigns that have these characters in them. And all of a sudden, we get this total rework. It's now a commander is the guy or gal. Then he has a crew that's kind of nebulous. What do we do with these special crew that everybody have enjoyed getting, are really central to the game, and are quite good? We'll just dump them on top as instructors. As a matter of fact, we'll dump them on top as instructors, and we'll go ahead and randomly roll for the things that they give bonuses to. That's not good. Brothers in Arms / Sisters in Arms, I'm glad they finally got connected. I don't know why they were ever separate to begin with. As an idea for a crew, whole crew skills that each one of them have to have. That's a great idea. It's a great idea, and it's getting dropped into the can. Highly skilled crews took a hit. They just did. They took a hit. However, at the top end, they now start sprinting away from your bad to medium capability crews. Go back to my comment about the exponential increase, the fact that I can run a 3 to 4 skill crew and still be competitive in this new system, as proven by people crunching the numbers and changing the skills around. You can build some absolutely monster crews with very much outsized capabilities. Remember the clear benefits part? Remember the clear benefits part. The built-in meta that has already been created is in big danger here. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No, metas change. Metas change, but the game was built around this crew system that it has. It grew up around that. Everything that's connected to that crew system, the equipment, how people build the crew, how they play the tanks, a change this big absolutely just takes the puzzle and shoves it on the ground. You've got the puzzle half built, 3/4, and you just push it off the table, and you don't know what you got, other than you got pieces everywhere. You've got pieces everywhere. I'm going to go back slightly to the highly skilled crews and the idea that trying to figure out what skills you might want to put on them. You know, saying that it'll all come out in the wash is a bit disingenuous, to be honest. You might want it to be balanced. You might try to make it balanced, but once you release it into the wild, you release it to the players, all bets are off, and you really don't know what you're going to get. And when you make such a large change in an already built and closed system, you don't know what you're going to get. It's very dangerous, actually, for your game to do that. It's a huge chance. Equipment 2.0 was a big enough risk, but it was built on a system that already existed and was proven to work. This is an unproven system that you're attempting to dump into an already existing, very good, established game. It's hard to believe that is what is at the forefront. All right. Situational bonuses. Can we please not do those? We don't want magic powers. We don't want to press a button for an extra bonus or a buff or a debuff. The skills as background improvements is what got you here. If any of those exist, they should be minimal. I understand they do to some extent. There are skills like the reload one where your tank gets down to 10% and you get a slight bonus. It's such a tiny bonus. It's really hard to quantify if that's really any good. If you want to improve that a little bit, okay, but if you look in the skill tree that you built, especially in the case of talents, there's some really crazy situational bonuses. The one where you have a platoon fighting close together, getting all kinds of buffs, please, just no on those things. All right. Let me give it an aside here. Saying that you're only going to do 3 classes of instructor with 1 added later, why would you do that? It is needlessly limiting. You have created obsolescence in your instructor plan from the very beginning. You said, I got class 2 and 3 and we'll introduce a class 1 later. Well, now you can't introduce anything past the class 1. Why? I don't understand that. Why would you build it that way? That's unbelievable. The conversion is a mess. I think if you do any kind of crazy rework, your conversion is always going to be a mess. You're simply not going to be able to limit that kind of disaster when it is that much change. It was hard enough with Equipment 2.0. It was hard enough with Equipment 2.0, and that was basically the same system with improvements, which is what I'm talking about should be done here. But the conversion is confusing, and it is a mess. All right, so what do we do? You know, like I said earlier, it's a false premise that the old system has to be shit-canned. It really is. It's a false premise. It doesn't. The only thing I will say there is internal discussions in the company I have zero knowledge of, so I don't know what the personalities are doing in there and why this is being pushed. Probably I will never know. It's an old game. Also, coding is a thing. There could be structural issues with the current crew system that makes it hard for them to simply add on to it. You know, if that's true, I don't know. However, if you were able to create such a large new system, I think probably improving the old system is on the table. What do we do? The pain point of progression of crew, you make every crew a 4-man or person crew with a commander, gunner, driver, and the loader/radio operator on every tank. So the progression from tank to tank, even the little tiny ones, yes, historical accuracy, I got it, but does not matter in the case of balance or streamlining your game. That's the pain point. I think that's the fix under the current system. Make them able to go to multiple tanks. I like that idea. I'm not saying the entirety of the new system are bad ideas. I like the idea that you can go to multiple tanks. I'm not even bothered by having to be X level or X experience to open up a slot, or even paying for gold. Using gold to pay for a slot, that's not a bad monetization idea. I have a good crew. I want it to run in 3 tanks, 3 different mediums. Fantastic. Go ahead and do that. Make some kind of access or gate to get that done like you have done in the new system. That's a good idea. I like that. Add instructors. Why not just add instructors on top of it? You're able to, with the 4-man crew, keep the old crews. Now, there will have to be some adjustments, because if you have somebody with 5 prize crew in a 5-person tank, that one's going to go away, all right, and you have to move the experience around, or maybe they just come out of the tank and they're available to be retrained, probably the better idea. There's easy ways around that, I think. So we then can add instructors, whatever it is that you're working on. That's a really cool idea, actually, especially if you add it on top of the current system. Bring instructors in with extra small bonuses. Add and fix the skills and perks. This has always been the biggest problem. We have radio skills and perks that nobody ever takes unless for some reason they get 10 skill crews. And that is a very vanishingly small group of people. So fix the useless ones. You've known this for 5 years at a minimum, maybe longer. This is in fact the main problem, other than the pain points of moving crews around. I don't have any idea why this wasn't the main plan. To me, in my opinion, it was the easiest decision, the lowest hanging fruit idea possible. Content is king. Give us new skills and perks. As a matter of fact, if you want to, within this system give us enough new skills and perks that are good that people can then start making specialized crews. They can make specialized crews within the same framework of 3 or 4 crews is a good crew. And if you are really dedicated, you can get to 5 or 6. And that's where you're going to start to get your returns. If you expand the number of skills and there are more desirable skills out there, you're going to get more mix match plans from people who are going to build their crews to meet certain specifications. Specifications. And so what if it takes 5 or 6, a long grind to kind of get those extra skills? That's what the game is about. It's how it works. And then it doesn't create such an imbalanced higher crew system. Minimizes the conversion problems. This plan minimizes the conversion problems. Obviously, there's things that will have to be taken into account. I discussed one just earlier, but it is certainly a far cry from going through hundreds of crews and attempting to rework them in an entirely new skill system. And lastly, I think this is the biggest, most important point. The biggest, most important point. And it goes back to the premise that the old system is crap and it needs to be replaced completely. That plan improves a great system from a great game, from a great company who has provided for 10 years an MMO that millions of people have played. Why would you take a winner and shit can it? I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, my opinion only. Let me know what you think down in the comments section down there. whatever it is, down there, comment section down there. Let me know what you think, guys. Let me know what you think. That's really all I've got to say about the Sandbox 2.0. It's the first time I've ever downloaded the Sandbox. It was such a big change. I decided to check it out. To be honest, being an unpaid playtester is not really my thing there. But this was such a big change. I wanted to take a look at it and have a little bit of personal experience with what it is and what it looks like before I made too much of a comment. I have been saying this exact thing for years now, talking about we need to iteratively improve the skill system. And it's really disappointing it's got to this point, and it's even more disappointing to me that it's going to be such a massive rework with so many unknowns. It really is just the Hail Mary when all you needed was a yard. You know, using a American football analogy, it's 4th and 1. You got the best running back in the game. You got the best offensive line, and the plan is a Hail Mary all the way to the end zone. I just don't think that's the high percentage play, guys. You are not making the high percentage play with Crew 2.0. That's all I've got. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate your support and your support. We'll see you.